The story of Downton Abbey begins with a world on the edge of change. A grand house, a proud family, and a loyal staff all stand at the heart of a tale that will carry us through love, loss, and history itself. The bells of the Abbey ring as the morning sun rises over its stone walls, but behind the beauty and order lies tension, secrets, and the weight of a legacy that must survive no matter the cost. This is where our journey begins, upstairs and downstairs, in the halls of Downton Abbey. The year is 1912. The news of the Titanic's sinking reaches Downton Abbey, and with it comes a storm of uncertainty. The Crawley family learns that their heir has gone down with the great ship, and now the future of the estate hangs in the balance. Lord Robert Crawley, the Earl of Grantham, must face the possibility that his beloved home could fall into the hands of a distant cousin. Lady Cora, his American wife, worries for her daughters, who cannot inherit the estate under the strict rules of inheritance. Their lives, their security, and their traditions are suddenly under threat. Into this storm arrives Matthew Crawley, a middle-class lawyer from Manchester who never expected to inherit such a place. He represents the very change that many at Downton fear. With his modern views and quiet determination, Matthew challenges old customs and forces both the family and the servants to see that the world beyond Downton's gates is moving forward. For Lady Mary, the eldest daughter, his arrival is both an opportunity and an insult. Proud, sharp, and used to privilege, she struggles with the idea of marrying someone so far below her in social standing. Their early encounters are filled with cool words, yet beneath them lies the spark of something greater. Meanwhile, life downstairs moves to its own rhythm. Mr. Carson, the butler, rules with order and dignity, while Mrs. Hughes, the housekeeper, keeps the household steady. Beneath their watchful eyes, young Daisy, the kitchen maid, dreams of more, and Thomas, the ambitious footman, plots his way up the ladder. The servants' hall is filled with whispers, alliances, and rivalries that mirror the dramas upstairs. Every plate polished, every coat brushed, every secret exchanged reminds us that this house breathes because of the lives within it. Scandal soon touches the Abbey when Lady Mary is caught in a situation that could ruin her forever. A guest, the charming but dangerous Kamal Pamuk, dies in her room, leaving Mary and her maid Anna in a desperate struggle to protect her name. The secret becomes a heavy burden, and even though it is locked within the walls of Downton, the risk of exposure hangs over her future. It is in this tension that the character of Mary begins to take shape, a woman torn between her reputation, her heart, and the duty she feels to her family. By the end of the first season, Matthew and Mary's relationship begins to shift from mistrust to a bond that neither can deny, though pride and circumstance keep them apart. The estate itself feels alive, as though it is holding its breath for what comes next. Upstairs and downstairs, love and loyalty are tested, and the question of who will carry Downton into the future grows ever more urgent. The Abbey stands tall, but the world beyond its walls is already changing, and Downton must change with it. The echoes of gunfire travel far beyond the battlefields of France and find their way into the quiet walls of Downton Abbey. It is now 1916, and the Great War has transformed the world outside and the lives within this great house. What was once a symbol of tradition and comfort becomes a place of change, where sorrow and duty walk hand in hand. The Crawley family can no longer live untouched by history. The war has called their sons, their heirs, and even their servants to the front line. And suddenly Downton is no longer simply a home. It becomes a reflection of sacrifice. Matthew Crawley, who once seemed only a lawyer turned heir, now carries the weight of a soldier. He goes to the front with courage, leaving behind Lady Mary, whose feelings for him are now tangled between pride, fear, and a love she is too hesitant to admit. The letters between them, filled with formality and unspoken longing, mirror the silence of so many couples separated by war. Matthew's absence leaves Mary torn, caught between her true heart and the attention of another suitor, Sir Richard Carlisle, a man of power and wealth, but not of kindness. Her decision is no longer just about love, but about survival in uncertain times. Downton itself becomes a place of healing and heartbreak when it is transformed into a convalescent hospital for wounded officers. Lady Sybil, once only a young woman curious about politics and equality, now dons her nurse's uniform. She works tirelessly, caring for soldiers whose bodies and spirits are broken by war. It is during this time that her bond with Tom Branson, the Irish chauffeur with fiery ideals, begins to grow. Their love seems impossible, crossing class and tradition. But in the chaos of war, impossible things find room to breathe. Downstairs, the war touches the staff in ways both great and small. William, the kind-hearted footman, joins the army, his loyalty to Matthew unshaken. His journey takes him from the polished halls of Downton to the mud-soaked trenches, and his story will become one of the most tragic and tender moments of the season. Daisy, who has never truly understood her own heart, is pulled into William's fate, bound by promises she does not fully understand. Their story reminds us that even the smallest voices at Downton carry heavy burdens when history demands it. And then there is Anna and Mr. Bates. Their love is quiet but unshakable, tested by secrets and shadows from Bates's past. Even as the war rages, their devotion to each other becomes a fragile light in dark times. Yet, happiness never comes easily for them. Every step forward seems to be met with another obstacle, as though fate itself is testing their strength. By the time the war nears its end, Downton has changed. The soldiers who returned carry scars that never fade. The family upstairs and the servants downstairs all know that nothing will ever be the same. Matthew comes home, but he is not untouched. His injuries leave him questioning his future, his ability to love, and his role as heir. For a moment it seems that even the hope of Mary and Matthew's union has been lost forever. But Downton Abbey, like its people, endures. The war may have reshaped the world, but within its walls, resilience grows. The second chapter of this story closes not with triumph, but with survival, and the quiet strength to carry on. The doors of Downton open to music and celebration, yet beneath the sound of wedding bells lies the whisper of tragedy. The Crawley family enters this new chapter with smiles, but fate has already begun to weave a darker thread. Lady Mary, at last, finds herself hand in hand with Matthew. Their love, once so uncertain, now shines with promise. The long-awaited wedding brings warmth to the halls of Downton, and for a moment, the future seems secure. Together, they dream of modernizing the estate, balancing tradition with progress. It is the kind of hope that feels unshakable. But in this house, joy is never free from the shadow of loss. While Mary steps into her new life, her sister Sybil steps into her own, far from the expectations of her birth. Married to Tom Branson, the chauffeur who became her partner, Sybil's life embodies the changes sweeping across Britain. She gives birth to their first child, a moment that should be filled with nothing but happiness. Yet Downton is struck by heartbreak when complications take her life, leaving Tom with his daughter in his arms and the family shattered. The Abbey, once filled with laughter, now feels hollow. Even the grandeur of its rooms cannot hide the sorrow of a family who has lost one of its brightest lights. Meanwhile, Lady Edith's journey takes a quieter but no less painful path. Always the overlooked sister, Edith searches for purpose beyond the walls of Downton. She turns to writing, finding her voice in a world that often silences women. Through her newspaper column and her growing independence, Edith begins to break free from the shadow of her sisters, even as she suffers the sting of unfulfilled love. Her story is not of instant triumph, but of resilience, showing that strength often grows slowly, away from the center of attention. Downstairs, the servants navigate their own storms. Anna and Mr. Bates face the crushing weight of injustice when Bates is imprisoned for a crime he did not commit. Anna's devotion to him becomes her battle, every visit to the prison a reminder of their love and the cruelty of fate. Their struggle becomes one of the season's deepest emotional currents, reminding us that even the most loyal hearts can be tested beyond measure. As the season moves forward, hope and grief intertwine again. Mary gives birth to her son, ensuring the Crawley line will continue. But this joy comes at an unbearable price. Matthew, who had carried so much of the future in his hands, is taken suddenly in a tragic car accident. The heir, the husband, the father, gone in a single moment. His loss is more than personal. It is the breaking of a dream, the collapse of everything the family believed was finally secure. Season 3 ends not with resolution, but with a silence heavier than any words. Downton Abbey stands strong, but its walls now hold the echoes of both wedding vows and funeral prayers. The Crawleys must face a new reality, scarred by grief, yet bound by the unyielding duty to carry on. In this season, we see most clearly that Downton is not simply a house of beauty. It is a house of endurance, where joy and sorrow are forever entwined. Silence lingers in the halls of Downton after Matthew's death. His absence is more than the loss of a husband or heir. It is the loss of direction. Lady Mary, now a widow and young mother, drifts through rooms that once promised her happiness. Grief weighs on her like a shadow she cannot escape. Yet even as her heart breaks, the estate demands her strength. The future of Downton lies not in mourning but in leadership. And Mary is called to step forward. Slowly, painfully, she begins to reclaim her voice, shaping herself into a woman who can protect the house that both defines and confines her. Around her, life moves on with its own stubborn force. Edith, often overlooked, finds herself at the center of a scandal that threatens her reputation. Her love for Michael Gregson leads her into dangerous territory. And when he vanishes abroad, Edith is left with a secret she cannot share. A child born out of wedlock. Her story unfolds in whispers, in stolen glances, and in the quiet desperation of a woman torn between duty and love. Unlike her sisters, Edith's battles are fought in silence, her victories and heartbreaks often unseen, but no less powerful. In contrast, Rose, the young cousin with a spirit untamed by tradition, brings energy and color into the Abbey. She is restless, eager to live fully, and unafraid of breaking rules. Her romances and rebellions challenge the old ways, showing that the next generation will not be bound by the same chains of duty. Through her, Downton begins to breathe differently, caught between the grace of its past and the excitement of a new future. Downstairs, the servants continue to mirror the struggles upstairs. Anna, whose love for Bates has been her anchor, faces one of the darkest moments of her life when she is assaulted by a visiting valet. Her silence, her fear, and the careful way she hides her pain remind us that tragedy does not only fall on those with titles. Bates, ever loyal but haunted by shadows of his own, burns with a need to protect her, though his devotion carries with it the risk of violence. Their story in this season becomes a quiet storm, testing the meaning of love and the lengths to which one will go for justice. Even Mr. Carson and Mrs. Hughes find themselves questioning the place of tradition. The world outside is changing, faster than they can sometimes bear. New machines, new politics, new ideas seep into the household. The once unshakable line between upstairs and downstairs begins to blur. There is both fear and wonder in this change, a recognition that time will not wait for anyone, not even for the grandeur of Downton Abbey. By the season's end, Mary has stepped firmly into her role as leader. She faces suitors, new possibilities, and the pressure of carrying the Crawley legacy. Edith wrestles with her secret. Rose dances into scandal and delight, and the servants continue to bear the weight of struggles unseen. Downton itself, once frozen in tradition, now feels alive with uncertainty. Season 4 is not simply about loss, it is about survival. It shows us that in the ashes of sorrow, resilience begins to take root. The year is 1924, and a new world is knocking on the doors of Downton Abbey. Change is no longer a whisper at the edges. It is standing in the Great Hall, demanding to be heard. A Labour government has come to power, and with it comes the challenge of modern ideas pressing against centuries of tradition. Lord Grantham feels the strain. His certainty in the old ways begins to falter as he realizes that titles and land no longer guarantee influence. Downton, once a fortress of the past, must now learn to live with the future. Lady Mary, still at the center of the estate's survival, finds herself torn between suitors, each representing different versions of her life ahead. Tony Gillingham offers her a path of wealth and safety, But she cannot ignore the spark she feels with Henry Talbot, whose passion for speed and independence mirrors the restless beat of the new age. Mary's choices are not only about romance, but about what kind of woman she will allow herself to become. In her sharp words and measured silences, we see a woman learning to define herself beyond duty. Meanwhile, Lady Edith's struggles reach deeper into secrecy. Her daughter Marigold, hidden in plain sight with a tenant family, becomes the fragile thread binding her heart to her future. Every glance, every stolen moment with her child carries the risk of exposure. Edith's story now burns with the quiet courage of a mother fighting to keep her place in a world that still seeks to punish her for defying its rules. Her pain is private, but her determination is unshakable. Downstairs, the servants begin to feel the weight of progress as well. Carson, proud and steady, debates whether the values of his world can survive in an era of telephones and electricity. Mrs. Hughes, ever practical, urges him to see that change need not erase dignity. Together, their story grows softer, touched by affection, as they step toward a personal happiness neither had dared to imagine before. Their relationship becomes a reminder that even those bound by duty can choose love. The season also brings moments of tension and risk. Bates remains under suspicion, his past always a shadow that threatens to fall across his marriage with Anna. Their love, tested time and again, becomes a struggle against forces beyond their control. The Crawleys themselves face scandal when questions of loyalty, politics, and morality collide at a dinner table where aristocracy meets common sense. Even in its grandeur, Downton can no longer escape the arguments of a new Britain rising around it. By the end of Season 5, the estate is not defeated but transformed. Mary stands taller, Edith grows bolder, and Robert begins to accept that the Abbey must live with progress, not against it. Downton is no longer just the stage for family drama. It has become a mirror of a nation in transition. The great house still shines with beauty, but its strength now lies not only in its walls, but in the people who are learning to face the world beyond them. The last chapter begins not with a bang, but with a quiet truth. Time is moving on, and even Downton Abbey cannot escape it. The year is 1925, and the great house feels the weight of endings. The Crawleys and their staff know that the world outside is rushing forward. Motor cars fill the roads, radios fill the air, and politics stir voices that once went unheard. The Abbey, once a fortress of tradition, must now learn to live with change or be left behind. Lady Mary, who has weathered grief and duty, finally faces the choice between control and happiness. In Henry Talbot, she finds both challenge and love. His world of racing cars, daring speed, and independence unsettles her, yet it also awakens her spirit. Their marriage is more than romance. It is a symbol of Mary's acceptance that life cannot be lived in fear of loss. Through her, we see how a woman shaped by duty learns to choose her own heart. Lady Edith, whose journey has been one of struggle and silence, finally finds her moment of joy. She marries Bertie Pelham, a man who sees her not for her scandals but for her strength. Edith, once dismissed as the overlooked sister, becomes Marchioness of Hexham, outranking even her own family. Her story, so long marked by shadows, ends in light. In her triumph, the Abbey shows us that even the quietest voices can rise. Downstairs, life moves toward its own gentle closure. Mr. Carson, the butler who held the house together with dignity, finds his body betraying him. His hands tremble, and the role that defined his life must be passed on. Yet with Mrs. Hughes by his side as his wife, Carson discovers that his legacy is not only in polished silver and strict order, but in the love and loyalty he has given. Their wedding earlier in the season is a tender reminder that even those who dedicate their lives to service deserve their own happiness. Anna and Mr. Bates, after years of trials, finally welcome their first child. Their joy feels like a gift, hard-earned and deeply deserved. For them, peace does not arrive in grand gestures, but in the quiet comfort of a family built through patience and pain. Daisy, too, begins to dream beyond the kitchen, her education opening doors to a life larger than the one she had once imagined. Even Lord Grantham, once resistant to every change, comes to see that Downton's survival depends not on holding the past, but on adapting to the present. His family stands stronger for it. The Abbey no longer feels like a relic, but like a living home, ready to carry its legacy into a new century. Season 6 closes with celebration, with laughter echoing through its halls instead of sorrow. Mary and Edith reconciled, Carson and Hughes settled into married life, and the staff finding new paths beyond service. Downton Abbey, the house that has witnessed joy and grief in equal measure, remains standing. Not untouched, not unchanged, but alive. The curtain falls not on loss, but on continuity. A reminder that while eras end, stories never truly do. The last light of day settles over the stone walls of Downton Abbey, and the house stands as it always has, steady, proud, and filled with memories. We have walked with the Crawleys and their staff through weddings and funerals, war and peace, scandal and triumph. Now, as the story of the series draws to a close, the Abbey itself feels like a character taking its bow. It is not simply a setting, but the keeper of every joy and every sorrow, a witness to the lives that passed through its halls. For Mary, Edith, Tom, and the next generation, the future is no longer uncertain but open. They are no longer bound by fear of change but guided by it. Their stories remind us that love, courage, and resilience can endure even when the world shifts beneath our feet. The servants, too, have taken their steps into the light, proving that dignity is not found in titles, but in the choices of the heart. Carson, Hughes, Anna, Bates, Daisy. Each of them has carried a piece of the Abbey forward, into lives beyond its walls. And though the series came to its natural close, the story did not end. The films continued the journey, showing us how the Crawleys faced royal visits, political unrest, and the challenges of a new age. Each return to Downton felt like walking through a familiar doorway, greeted by faces we knew, voices we cherished, and stories that still carried the same warmth. The house itself remained timeless, as though it had been waiting for us. Downton Abbey is more than a drama. It is a portrait of history, painted with the lives of one family and the people who served them. It reminds us that even as eras fade, what truly endures are the bonds of loyalty, the resilience of love, and the quiet strength of home. As the camera pulls away for the final time, we see the Abbey bathed in golden light. Its doors close, but its story remains open in our hearts, because Downton was never only about the Crawleys, nor only about the servants. It was about all of us, looking back at a world gone by, and realizing that every age, no matter how distant, is filled with people searching for the same things: love, belonging, and hope. The story of Downton Abbey may have ended, but its echo lives on. The Abbey stands eternal, reminding us that though time changes everything, some places and some stories remain forever.